We've sold it in 2016 at a record valuation for the country ever. That tells you kind of my mindset,
Yes.
that I think if I can focus on something.
Who says you can't?
If you build reputation, money will always follow. Brands becoming the new Hollywood stars, it's what the future is.
Welcome to the wild.
Welcome to the next episode of Entrepreneurs in the Wild. Obviously, what we're trying to do is understand about entrepreneurs, what makes them tick, and also the entrepreneurial spirit and how we can make that infectious in the companies that we're working within. And joining me today, I'm thrilled to say, is a gentleman called Eduardo Maruri. Now, apologies if I haven't quite nailed the pronunciation. I did my best.
Okay.
So, Eduardo, you are Ecuadorian, but you've worked all over the world. So, a global citizen now living in Miami and a creative entrepreneur. And you've worked at some of the biggest and the best creative businesses in the world, as well as in lots of other fields as well. But it'd be great for you just to say a few words about yourself and introduce your backstory and the reason why you're here today.
Okay, fantastic. So I'm Eduardo Maruri, born in Ecuador. Like you said, I'm a creative entrepreneur at heart. I started my entrepreneurial career in early 90s with my own creative agency in Ecuador, which I then sold to WPP in 2016.
Mm.
I went to work in WPP, one of the biggest holding companies in advertising in the world. And then as a creative leader within Gray, one of the agencies, first in Latin America, then in Europe, then at a global role for about 6-7 years. And then I decided to go back being an entrepreneur and bought back the agency that we sold in 2016. That was last year. And then I met this great gentleman, and I also working for Iris as a creative chair. So that's why I'm in London. That's why I'm here.
I've got to say, it's been amazing to work with you because Iris is 25 years old. And a lot of the people within Iris have been there a long time. And that's a great thing. And it's also a sort of weakness too, because you start to sort of forget, you lose perspective. So I think you've really come in and you've provided real inspiration and challenge, and you really provided a shot in the arm to a lot of our people. So it's been noticed.
Okay.
And it's been fantastic. So I really appreciate it.
I'm glad. It's early days, but I think it has a great potential and a great backbone and a great team, great roster of clients. I think it has all the ingredients to be a great agency. And
Well,
I'm glad to be part of it.
and the next chapter as well, because it's like 25 years so far on the clock. Who's counting? I feel like there's a lot to do. But if we could just start with your time when you started your agency, what was going on in your mind? How did you start your business, and what were you thinking and feeling at that time?
I remember the exact moment when I had the idea that I had to go and build my own business. I was working for the Gillette company. I was a marketing trainee in Boston, and I took an MBA in Harvard Business School. And I remember I took one class, and something triggered me, and I wrote down in a piece of paper, said Maruri Agency. I said, I knew how to do it. So it came to me, really. It just came as an idea. And my father at that time was the president of McCann Erickson and the founder of McCann Erickson. He's been doing that job for 35 years. He was kind of the father of advertising, modern advertising in the country.
Yeah.
But he was an employee. He was the president, but he was in his company.
Yeah.
And I was 23, maybe 24. And I already was working for 4 or 5 years at Gillette. And it was having a good career. And I told him, we should do this together. You should quit McCann, I should quit Gillette, and we should go together and do an agency, because he was about my age now. I said, you're going to retire. They're going to take your name out, and all your contacts, your friends, your reputation will not be capitalized. And I had that vision when I was 23. And he said, kind of laugh. He said, okay, let's talk about it. He didn't act on it, but I did. I kind of went back to Ecuador, and I started putting a business plan together. I would go to his office every week, say, Dad, let's do this. Let's open an agency. And he would say, you have a great career in front of you. You're a marketing manager already. Just relax, right? And I said, no, we have to do this, Dad. So at the end, he didn't want to. And I quit Gillette. I went to the lawyer, opened my company. I said, Dad, I'm doing it with or without you. And then he noticed I was serious about it. And then at the end, he joined me. He quit his career and he joined me. And a lot of the clients came with him, right? So it was big. But the incredible part is he got sick 8 months after. So he got cancer and he could never go back to work. So I only had him for 8 months.
Yeah.
So if he didn't join me at that point, it would be a different story because I needed his brand name, his legacy, his track record in the industry, and also as my father, right? I needed his support. But then in 8 months, everything changed. Then I had to be running the company at 24, 25, and providing, financial support to him and his family because he was married again. But if he didn't do that year, it would be a different story because he would have been sick in McCann and different. So it was enough to build the company with his support, but then I had to run it by myself for since then, 1992.
So talk about the early years of running your business. I would imagine that, there was plenty of opportunities. You had the start of a good brand.
Yeah.
Did you get a sense of timelines or was it kind of mission driven? Were you trying to achieve, be something?
Yes. I always believed in being the most creative agency in the country. And that was a space that I was passionate about. I knew we had to take that flag and own it. And I knew that since early, that if we own that flag, the most creative agency in the country, we will grow, we will follow. And I didn't have a sense of value or selling the company. This is 1991, 1992. I just wanted to pay the bills, honestly, and pay my dad's bills. We did have insurance, so he was sick for 6 years before he died. And it was a lot of pressure on making money to pay, right? So I didn't have in my mind at all the value of selling the company. But I did believe, and I never let go of the creative flagship, the creative mission. It's just like I never let go, never.
Yeah.
And it paid off afterwards.
Yeah. So how long before WPP comes knocking?
So I run that business until 2004.
Yeah.
So that was 12, 13 years. And then I took a break and I went to politics. And that break was like 6, 7 years break. And then the company went bad after I left. But I went to politics, ran for Congress, went to Congress, rewrote the Constitution of Ecuador. So it was fun. My first creative as a copywriter. So if you look at the Constitution of Ecuador, my name is in one of the ones who wrote the Constitution. So I was having fun. I was really enjoying myself in politics. I ran the Chamber of Commerce, I had my own political party. I was going to run for president of the country. I had an incredible political career. And then I went to football and things went awful. Like football is, right? You don't control football. So it was a horrible time. And then I went back to advertising in 2010.
Yeah.
But then the value was zero. I had a CFO. He told me, Eduardo, if you sell the company right now for zero, it's the best deal you can make, including the building, everything, because the company owes money to the IRS, owes money to this, blah, 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 has no growth, almost no clients. So 6 years is a long time, right? You couldn't expect things to go well when you're not. And then I went back in creativity, but this time at international level. I said, we have to be international. And that's when I got a sense of we need to add value and create value. And we've sold it in 2016 at a record valuation for the country, ever.
Yeah.
So it took me 5 years to actually rebuild the agency.
Yeah. So if you think about your sort of career in politics and then your career in football, were there things about those sort of chapters in your life that have helped you achieve amazing success in creativity?
I think there is, especially, I think it's the same. When I was passionate about creativity, but then I lost a little bit of passion about the industry and handling with clients. And that when I lost that passion, I need to kind of evolve that passion somewhere else. And that's why I went into politics. I was really passionate about it, but even my campaigns to run for Congress were all very creative, all very different. Everything that I did in the Chamber of Commerce, I think Congress, it was all very different. So I kind of applied my creativity into politics, into football. But I will say that it was the same mindset of actually solving problems, right? It's a problem-solving mentality. When I went to the football, because the football team was in the worst position in the history, so I went to solve it. When I went into Congress, the politics in the country was a big mess, and they needed new faces, and I thought I could help kind of reshape the country. So it's the same mindset, really, but you needed a passion, and I had lost a little bit the passion for the industry,
Yeah.
and I got it back in 2011 when I came back. 6 years was enough for me to miss it.
Yeah.
I needed a break.
And what was it about yourself that made you think you could have all of these different careers? Because these are incredible kind of steps that you took, and they're unusual. You know what I mean? It's like very few people are able to be a sort of successful polymath like this.
Yeah, exactly. You're usually good at one thing, right?
So what was it that said, "Oh, I can go and be successful in politics and then football and then whatever else"? You know,
I think there's something inside of me that believes that I can do almost anything. I did the Ironman in between. When I was doing, honest, when I was running, I did an Ironman out of the blue. I'd never even run a marathon. I just went to do the Ironman right away. And I did it 6 months after without any experience. That tells you kind of my mindset, you know, that I think if I can focus on something,
who says you can't?
Yeah, exactly. And that's I think since I was born, I had that kind of fire.
Yeah.
And I still have it. Actually, I still think that if I really focus on something, it can make it happen. I think I think some of us are born with that kind of. It can be a curse too, you know, because you never relax. It's like my kids tell me, like, when are you gonna relax? You know, like you could relax now. And I said, no. I feel like if I'm not aiming for something big, I'm wasting my time or my talent. So yeah, it's just a belief. It's just believing.
If you just sort of think about when you've done your deal with WPP and then you find yourself in a big job within the biggest network in the world, how did you sort of make that transition? You know, again, what were you thinking, feeling? You know, when you sort of took that decision.
Well, I enjoyed it because for the first time in my life, I wasn't worried about cash flow or paying bills and doing taxes, and so for me it was easy. Really, for me, it was an easy job. And I came with the same entrepreneurial mentality. And I had some difficulties because the CFO would tell me, this is not your company. You're running like it's your company, right? And this is not your company. I was making decisions, trying to really make things better, quicker. And in the corporate world, sometimes you have to navigate, right? And I wasn't very good at that. So I was breaking a lot of things in the way to get, but I got results. Always got results. So at the end, I always got promoted because I was getting results. But the process wasn't always, the CFOs wouldn't like me very much because I was always making decisions, quick decisions, and acting like it was my company. Yeah. And that's not very common in that world. You know, everyone tends to be very political and go easy. And I wasn't like that, you know. But it was fun. It was fun. I learned a lot. But it's just not me. I like to run things. I like to be able to make changes and to impact people. But something happened then when the COVID happened, and this is something that you'll know. I think we lost a little bit of the magic of being together and be able to lead people and to be passionate and have energy, feel energy with each other. And I think it was horrible for me to lead in Zoom. I kind of felt that it was. I think that was the beginning of the end of me at WP. COVID. Yeah, it's just I didn't feel the same energy of having a one-to-one meeting or meeting with the creatives and just didn't enjoy doing it by Zoom.
I remember COVID so clearly, and obviously being an entrepreneur myself, obviously you have your ups and your downs, and even when things are down, you're still engaged, you're still excited, you're still fully tuned in, and you know, and sometimes actually, when things haven't been going very well at Iris, I've been the most excited, because it's a challenge. It's it's like you doing an Ironman or something. It's like really fully engaged, and it's a real stretch and a test of your ability. But I do remember the whole kind of COVID era and sort of migrating from almost overnight to a kind of virtual, non-contact, non-social, and I think to be any good at anything, but especially in this industry, you've got to be passionate. You've got to bring those passions to your work and express those passions through your work. Otherwise, you don't win anything. You don't get awards. You're not doing breakthrough things that are, newsworthy and valuable to you or to clients. So I can really feel that. And I think that COVID happened, and then other things started to happen as well. So you end up with this elongated sense of depression,
Yeah.
like cost of living crisis, inflation, war, and it's like a whole kind of
chain of bad
events, things that have affected
depression. And people got depression and mental health, and
absolutely,
a lot of that. Yeah,
but I think it's like, and I'm like so glad to have met you recently, because you have that sort of infectious can-do spirit, and I think that our people will react to that, and they'll start thinking that they can do it too.
The value of personal encounters is just, you cannot replace that. That's why traveling sometimes is hard. It's expensive. It might be take a toll on your health and your routines.
Yeah,
but you cannot replace that contact, having a beer with the team or having a conversation, and having that's what I think it was missing in COVID. It was difficult in the corporate world, and that's why I decided to go back and buy my agency back, because it still had my name on the door, and I didn't want it to be like a failing business with my name. Right? They wouldn't take the name because it was a valuable brand in the country, and I say it doesn't deserve that death.
Yes,
because for WPP, it's just a small office in a small country. And for me, it was the thing I built, right? Even though I've sold it, it still had my name on the door. And I guess there's a little bit of ego too, in terms of, having your name, your brand, not being in bad shape. So it's a little bit of that too, I guess. But it's mostly legacy, I think, right? And leave that something good in the world.
So, just thinking about the creative industries, and obviously we've been talking quite a lot recently about kind of earned and owned, and also about creativity that people want to see, want to watch, want to engage with. But just interested to get your thoughts really on what you think the big opportunities are, kind of coming into the future of the industry, because obviously we're now in a kind of AI tech fueled in-housing, outsourcing. You know what I mean? It's like full of things that are becoming more and more rational.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to get your sense of, what you think the sort of future opportunity is looking like.
I think we have to do less things that are more kind of the old-fashioned way of buying 2 pairs of shoes that last for 20 years, good quality, expensive, but they last forever.
Yeah.
Buying 1 suitcase or 2 suits, one jacket. I think we have to go with that mentality, and building less assets, but more relevant for the brand. And that's why I believe going to long format and doing movies or series or going deep into brands, becoming the new Hollywood stars, it's where the future is. I strongly believe that, and building one big asset, like a movie, like Barbie, or like Ferrari.
Or Entrepreneurs in the Wild.
Entrepreneurs in the Wild, there you go. Exactly, make a movie for this is long
maybe.
Format. Well, it is on format, right? It's just people need time to assimilate, So the short, fast, cheap things which we're surrounded by, I think they will just expire.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of people doing that, right? YouTube ads or clips or whatever. But I think if we as an industry or we as a creative team think about what are these valuable assets that we can create together with the brand, and that asset will remain for 10, 20 years. That's what my passion is now.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gravitating towards.
I totally agree, and I think it's becoming more and more important because of people actively choose not to see a lot of ads. And even when they do see them, they don't tune into them, so they're not really aware of what is being said to them. So having content that is meaningful and deep and motivating
and fun or engaging, or it's like people like you and I, we pay not to watch advertising. We pay Netflix not to watch advertising TV. We pay Spotify Premium not to listen to ads. So we're willing to pay not to watch advertising.
Yeah.
And advertisers are paying money to somehow go around But if you build an asset like that,
Yeah.
on movie, you'll pay money to watch it. It's the opposite, right? So I think that's where I think we should go as an industry or as a creative.
And you end up with a creative product that's more like entertainment. More,
Yeah.
it's
It's more power. Yeah, it's entertainment. I think the world has changed, and it's not a novel idea, but I think not a lot of people have acted on decisively.
I think that there are conventions in the industry that prevent clients from embracing it, I think.
Yeah.
And it's to do with that, well, they don't know how to, or what do you spend, or how do you evaluate it, or what about media buy?
With the ROI and all these metrics, and
Exactly. So there are loads of like systems, processes, protocols, habits that prevent clients from embracing this. I think. I mean, obviously there are clients doing it.
Yeah.
But it's still quite new. It's still not really sort of at a point where it's got real momentum yet. Even though that there are, you can see it happening.
I'm just guessing. A lot of people had this conversation in the early 1940s when TV came out, right? People were just doing radio and print, right? And suddenly there's a new medium, and people are like, wow, should we do a video for this, right? They were having the same logic, right? How do you do this? I mean, and then TV became obviously the driving a medium, and I think this is what is happening with content. It will eventually it will all be content. In 20 years, we'll be sitting here and people like, what were we thinking? No? Obviously, nobody wants to watch advertising anymore. They want to watch content, and I think we're in that decade where things will switch.
When you sort of think about creative people, and also strategy and strategists, what sort of shifts or new challenges do you think that those sorts of people are going to have to deal with in order to make this shift?
It's a good question, right? Because then you can incorporate all the Hollywood creative, right? Script writers and
or people who are making computer games or
exactly.
Or
so the game is open, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be then good and embrace and know your brands better, because what we bring to the table in that Hollywood meets Madison Avenue is we understand brands and we understand strategy better than Hollywood, right? And this is how we have to find that sweet spot. You have to listen to us because we understand brands. So you have to become very much brand keepers in a way, right? Or brand vigilance and how we do it. But yeah, I think it's exciting. But the creative, it's open for everyone, really.
Well, yeah, and it's like brand facilitation in some ways, in that, because it's less like here's a slide in a PowerPoint presentation that's the strategy. It's less linear. It's less clear cut.
It can go so many ways, yeah.
And also that a lot of it will become much more open to interpretation, I think.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's changing. Like you say, with AI coming in and helping a lot of these early stage works. And I was yesterday at a town hall in Iris, and I was doing what are we doing with AI and all this. And I was looking at all these tools, right? But they kept stressing, right? This is not replacing creativity. It's just making us better and faster. And for now. So it's interesting. But I think there'll always be a job for good creative talent and good strategists.
Well, yeah, and I think it also potentially sets the bar higher too, doesn't it? Because in the world of AI, technology, insourcing, outsourcing, et cetera, that creates commodities. And as we've already talked about, I think a lot of the commodity creativity is kind of not seen.
Yeah, it's just noise or.
So after a while, people are able to see that, therefore it's not actually worth that much.
Yeah.
So you end up with a sort of situation where it places even more value on originality, cultural creativity that has got real meaning and passion.
I agree. The same with actors. A lot of people can be replaced by AI actors, but some of the things that just through craft cannot be replaced yet. I think there was always space for creative people in the world.
So when you left, you started a very good job at Gillette.
Yeah, I had a good job,
Um,
actually, very young.
Set up your own agency. Then you went into politics, then into football, then back to your agency.
Yeah.
What next? You know, it's like, are there any? And it's one of the. You're one of those rare people where I'm going to have to sort of check all of these career moves just to make sure. You know, how were you able to do it all? You know what I mean? It's like, hang on, these years don't add up. You know what I mean? Hang on a second.
Yeah. It's all true. It's all true.
Do you feel like there's something left out there that's a new frontier or a new problem to solve? Because you seem to be very kind of problem solution.
Yes, I actually do feel like that. So I love my country, and I don't live there anymore. I'm not based there, but I think I'm very proud of.
Yeah.
And when we built those 5 years, when we started winning awards, and we won the first Cannes Lion, the first Cannes Lion for the country ever, and then we won 40 in a row. And that changed the industry. It made a lot of people from creatives being hired somewhere else.
Yes.
So a new generation of Ecuadorians creative, I think we helped build, because we showed them it was possible. It was about the first lion, and then everyone wanted to do it. And then, so I think that's one of my biggest contributions, is like building a generation of creative talent, or building the belief in Ecuador that things could be done. Like that is not because we're Ecuador, we cannot compete with the biggest creatives in the world. So that happened, and it's going on, and the industry changed forever. I want to do the same in the film industry, right? I want to do the same, bring that confidence and that kind of sense of it can be done.
Yes.
In the film industry in Ecuador first, right? So I want to bring the first Oscar for Ecuador, because I think awards are like lights that tell you that you're doing something right. So if you bring like the first Oscar for the country, you make productions that somehow involve Ecuadorian themes and actors or directors, and it become worldwide recognition, I think will open up the industry, a new industry, which is now slipped. It's not active in the country.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm gravitating. Yeah. So I wish I could do it with brands. The new. It's just a side thing for my company, but I wish I could help ignite that belief in that industry in the country.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't want to bet against you.
And
in fact, we might be doing that together. At
exactly.
Some Oscars or something.
Exactly. I think we can do that together, 100%. So it's just a nice way of looking at the bigger picture, right?
Yeah.
I think changing countries, it's fun, right? Changing countries. Say, how do we change this country? How can we? It's difficult to change, United States or UK, right? But a country like that, you can actually change.
Yeah, and I mean, just speaking of like nationality for a second. Obviously, I'm British, and Iris was a British company, but it's now a global company.
Yeah.
Now, and I've lived and worked all over the world, and lived in Asia twice, and so I see the UK sort of slightly differently to people that haven't left the UK. But it'd be just interesting to get your perspective on culture and nationality, and what are you seeing when you're working with people in the US or in Europe or in Asia? What are there any sort of differences, and are there any things that you carry with you because of your background and the culture that you have come from?
Yeah. So first of all, let me comment. Like I can see you clearly as a kind of universal citizen, and you have that vision and that empathy to be. I can see you fitting any social structures because you live abroad. You have that mentality, and that's why I try to gravitate with people the same, and I feel the same. Even though I was born in Ecuador, of course, I don't live there for years, and I feel like I went to school in the U.S., work in London, lived in Spain, studying in Berlin. So I have that kind of same mentality like you. Like I see the world as one. So I don't see nationalities. I see nationalities, but I don't take them too much into account.
When they're not like borders and boundaries. They're not boundaries.
No. Exactly. They're not boundaries. Yeah. That's the right word. They're not boundaries. I think there are some cultural things that, for example, being Latin or Latin American gives me maybe a little bit of creativity to solve problems because a lot of things don't work there. So you go to the office, there's no electricity for a week. Okay, what do you do, right? So you have to be able to solve that. And things that you don't have to face in these countries. So you get a little bit more resourceful. in that way, right? And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But also there's some great things about American culture. I think the U.S. for doing business is really good.
Yeah.
It's very simple. It's practical. Everything works. People are mostly honest people. I like
Yeah.
that. But I also like the UK, the fact that everything is on time, that people are reliable, that you can think long term. So I try to pick the best of each culture.
Yeah.
I like kind of the social structure in Latin America. The family values in Latin
Yes.
America are incredible,
Yes.
right? So I keep that. So I think it's kind of I can see where you come from sometimes, but I appreciate and respect more like people that I can be
Yeah.
more universal.
I was living in Asia. I was learning Korean every week. I tell you what, I don't know how many languages you speak. You speak a lot more languages than I do. I can guarantee it. But learning Korean was a bit of a long haul. It was very, very complicated.
So difficult.
I did manage after a couple of years to sort of, get some of the basics, and or just so I could at least track a conversation and just pick out words.
Wow.
But the thing that I got from it that I think is valuable to me today is just knowing perspectives, understanding the Korean history and culture, and how they make decisions and how they socialize and why. And but I mean, it must be quite interesting for you because I mean, you've successfully lived and worked in so many kind of countries and cultures.
Yeah, but I try to do the same. Like try to pick the best out of each culture, and I always go with like an open book. When I respect first of all. I think you have to respect the culture you're in. And you have to embrace it and respect it, and then you take the best of everything. And I've seen incredible people everywhere. There's good people everywhere. I tend to think there's good people, there's smart people, talented people everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And that's I think we're lucky. You and I are lucky to have that opportunity to see the world like that, and not as an oyster. I think the world is getting more and more, like you said, less borders. The world is getting smaller in a way. And before that, traveling to London was like going to the moon from Ecuador, right? Or going to the US. It's far. Now everything's closer. It's faster. It's just like the world is more connected, right?
Yes. And also, when you do travel, there is already, because of all of the other things that we've been critical of, they fill in the gaps.
They fill in the gaps.
So you feel more close. You feel you're not like a total stranger when you rock up. It's like there's because we've had Zooms and it's just different, and they help fill in the gaps. I think around the sort of social contact.
And the same mentality is for brands, right?
Yeah.
If you think about it, people like you and I can also help brands think that way, because sometimes brands suffer the same problems, right? They think too local, and they lose the perspective of the global opportunity and the global language. And I've seen that happen in many ways, right? In America, that sometimes brands are very American and they just wouldn't understand. Even the Hispanic world within America, they don't take it into account, and there's or very Latin, and they won't translate. So I think that's something that brands can learn to, and that's a challenge. If you're gonna do like a movie, it has to appeal to everyone, right? How do you do a movie or a series or a documentary that appeals to most of the globe?
So I just want to talk a little bit about creativity and particularly awards. So, I mean, you've won a lot, or you've won and being involved in winning, let's say, loads of awards. And there is a correlation between award success and business success in our industry. Is pretty clear, I think. It'd be good just to sort of understand a little bit more about that and how that kind of process works and how you get creative businesses to, up to a level where they're regularly able to win, at the very best award shows in the world.
I believe in reputation, and I think if you build reputation, money will always follow. Right, that's my mantra, and I truly believe in that. Right, so your strategy should not be to win new business; it's to win reputation and trust that money will follow. Right, that's always been my mantra since I started my business. Right, obsessed, passionate about building reputation, and I think awards is a big part of it, because it's the international currency to see how good of a creative you are. Right, so it's the same like in the film industry. If you have an Oscar as a best actor, probably a good actor. Right? People are recognizing that you're a good actor.
Mm.
So awards is not the only thing, but I will say, if you have awards, you can build a career reputation, and business will grow. But it's not guaranteed. It's not the only thing. But if you don't have awards, it's guaranteed that you don't have a career reputation. So having them gives you a chance to build reputation. Not having them, no chance. You won't build a career reputation without awards. That's I've never seen a creative agency that is so good. They're the best, most creative agency in the country, and they don't win any awards.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So to win awards, I think process is more important than talent. If you build the right process to elevate the work, to elevate the ambition of the team, and rigorously are being hard on yourself and competing every 2 weeks and comparing to the rest, and great. I mean, that creates a culture. It's like training. It's going to a gym, right? So you want to play in the Champions League, but you don't train every week. You're not going to win the Champions League. You have to train and do work and compete and be graded. So it creates a process. It creates a muscle. It creates a culture that people change. If you install that in your company, it's an asset that will value millions and millions, because it will always push the best work.
Yeah.
And then by accident you will win awards.
Yeah.
But awards is a good KPI to have, not because of winning or not winning, because everything you have to do to get to the point to compete.
I think that's brilliant, because I think historically we've won awards, through luck. When we have had KPIs around awards, there's never been a process that creates those winning habits.
Yeah.
That kind of load the dice so that you're more likely to win them than not.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the big things, the big shifts I think that I'm starting to see since working with you, and you take it much more seriously than we ever have. But it's great, it's never too late. You know what I mean?
No, it's perfect, because Cannes just finished. I told him it's perfect timing, because this is April, Cannes entry is closed. So May 1st is the first day one of the new year. And you go until April next year when you submit to Cannes. And I talk about Cannes because I think it's the most universal recognized currency in creativity. And if you win in Cannes, then you can win other awards. But first you go to Cannes. And I think it creates also, many good things, but I think having that process in place, it will only do good for the company.
Yeah.
It will only create value. And for the clients, and clients love it too.
Oh, no doubt about it. Yeah, no doubt about it. I remember when I was in Singapore, I chaperoned some of our clients.
To Cannes.
Yeah, so we had some really good clients from Philips. We had some of our Adidas clients,
and they won.
And they were winning. And we also were on stage talking with them, and it was
amazing. Yeah,
it was fantastic. So I think there've been periods in our life where we've taken it seriously, and we've seen the success.
Sometimes how you lose that vision,
but it's an always on. It's a habit. It's and then going back to your thing around Champions League, it's like it requires real discipline and having robust process. Because that then enables you to get the best out of your talent, and it enables you to attract more of the right type of winning talent as well.
And the thing is, when you replicate, that's the beauty of it. You can replicate a jury room in your own office, and when you do it well, if you win here, you're going to win, right? That's the thing. It's in Cannes Lions, there's no surprises. Only people that are surprised. But if you know your staff, you're going to win. You may maybe 1, 2, or bronze or silver, but you're going to win because you already went through a process. Your process is so strict and so good that you're going to win. Yeah. And that's the beauty of it. And I would say, like, I've been in 160 Cannes Lion Awards that I'm involved. And I would say probably 150, I knew I was going to win. Maybe 10 was surprise. And maybe 10 surprised that I didn't win. But the 80% of them, I knew. And so that culture is what you want to bring to your office, right? It's a knowing before and trusting that your process is good.
Yes.
And refining the process, refining until it gets really solid.
Yeah, and I love that. And I like the idea of how that sort of galvanizes all the moving parts within an agency, whether you're working with the clients or in strategy or in performance marketing or PR or whatever, it galvanizes effort.
I think for a participation agency,
Yes.
it just makes all the
Yes.
sense in the world.
Totally.
Making sure everyone is on it, and also you can do specific work for clients. So let's say, okay, let's do this creative push on this specific client, and you shape your creative work for that month for that client, right? And then you invite the client, and you expose that to the client. The client says, "Oh my God, proactively, you thought about these 20 ideas? Yes. Let's pick this too.
Yeah.
Okay, right? So it creates also relationships. It's just good. I've seen it work in many countries, and every time it's worked.
Yeah.
Every time.
I'm just mindful of time. Just keen to sort of get a sense from you around like what advice would you give a young Eduardo? And obviously it's going to be difficult in this particular setting because you've just done so many amazing things. But if you could like change something about your journey or something that you would advise yourself early on in your life, what would that be?
I would have had more fun when I was younger. I didn't have much fun. And then it caught up later. I want to have fun when I was a bit older. And I think there's an age, a time for everything. You should always have fun. But I think whatever you do, don't forget to have fun, right? And I was too young, too many responsibilities. I got married, kids, family. For a decade, I didn't have any fun.
Yeah.
And then at the end, it caught up. And when I was in the mid-40s, I need to have fun. So I think that's something that it's and the obvious is about passion, right? It's like I have a few phrases that I say. Like one is nothing great was ever achieved by setting reasonable expectations. If you set reasonable expectations, nothing great was going to happen. You have to set unreasonable expectations, and if you push the bar high, you keep the winners and you lose the losers, right? So if you just think big, right? Think big and put the bar really high. And then the winners will remain. But if you put the bar low, the winners will go.
I've got to say, it's brilliant to be working with you. And thank you so much for coming to Entrepreneurs in the Wild and just sharing with all of the most amazing things.
Let's do it again in 1 year when we see Aries going.
We'll do a Cannes Lion special.
Cannes Lion, we have the lions here. Here's the proof, yeah.
So thank you for tuning in to Entrepreneurs in the Wild. Get this episode from wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you.